Welcome back, everybody. Alistair the Great. So, I've been paying attention to the news Trump has been delivering about the tariffs against China. And I can't say I'm surprised, is because everything he's doing is going down exactly as I said it would. Remember how I said in one of my previous videos is that the reason you can come to the table with bargaining power, and it doesn't matter how much your opponent wants to posture, if they can't actually respect that value, you can always walk away. The funny part is, even in Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, he said the most powerful thing you can do is knowing when to walk away from a bad deal. Like I said, I used to be a libertarian. I used to be a fan of, a lot of the ideas that the modern right is championing. I don't hide that fact. And that goes down to, once again, what I said earlier in my previous video, is bargaining power. You have to have something of value that you bring to the table that they want, that you can negotiate with. And that's the thing. You have to be aware of your value to know what you can negotiate with. It's because if you don't know what value you bring to the table, somebody could easily take advantage of you. By that same token, if you bring no value to the table, when you make endless demands but have nothing of value to provide, it's very easy to say no to a deal if you bring nothing of value to the table. And that's effectively what the United States is doing when it's waving its stick, saying that countries should just fall in line. In fact, I had found a video that I had seen shown up on my feed not too long ago, where Trump is reining them back in at the table. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up, is because it's a very interesting one. I want to get that exact title for you so I can quote it directly here. Oh yeah, to get back where we're at. So Trump loudly declared to the world, "We don't need anybody, they all need us." Okay, let's look at the facts again, is because this is where facts come in to burst another coat bubble that a lot of people tend to have. Let's talk about the facts. As of today, the vast majority of the United States economy is a service economy, is because a lot of our jobs, our manufacturing jobs, were sold off to other countries. Even the Chinese admit this. They didn't steal our jobs. We sold it to them. Our ruling class sold it to them. And so the reason why all our jobs had went overseas is because of our ruling class's greed. And so that's kind of an interesting thing to watch Trump go to the world stage and declare that everybody needs us and we don't need them, is because he is somebody who is not recognizing the position of the United States in regards to the rest of the world. And so, while I agree in spirit with the tariffs, before any right-wing dipshit comes in my chat and says that I just hate America or some shit, which is obviously false, okay? There are much worse people than me who hate America, so don't throw that in my lap. But while I agree, I would love for domestic manufacturing to come to the United States, this is the problem that we face. Our ruling class sold off our jobs to foreign countries. It's actively selling off our land to foreign investors. And while I can agree with the spirit of what the tariffs are supposed to achieve, namely bringing back production to the United States, that's not what they're going to achieve, and I'll tell you why. Because the United States does not have very much domestic production, is because it offshored everything. We became an information economy. We became a service economy, and we proudly declared that for the last 10 to 20 years. Even under Barack Obama, we had talked about proudly being a service economy, and that was the way of the future. And we send all our productive forces abroad. Is that to say we should neglect the service economy? We should neglect the information economy? We should neglect office jobs? Well, no. They have their role. They're part of modern infrastructure and civilization just as anything else. But the thing is, you can't also get away with not having any manufacturing. And when Trump is tariffing these countries, especially China, the Chinese know this. The Chinese know that the United States has no domestic production. And I said in a previous video that if the United States went through effectively tariffing the world, that would be effectively the United States self-sanctioning itself from the rest of the world. And so what's going to happen, and I want you to pay very close attention, is because it's not good news for the United States, is that because we have no domestic production, this production is not going to spring up overnight. That's just how that works. As much as I support bringing back American manufacturing, is because obviously it's in my interest for us to have a strong economy. But the thing is we have no productive forces if we sanction ourselves from the rest of the world now. Just right now, there is a 13 grand electric truck selling in China that doesn't get sold in the United States because of the tariffs and because of trade restrictions, because it would undercut domestic production within the United States. That's how badly the United States is losing in terms of competitive production. And so the ruling class knows this to some degree. Some of them do, not all of them. And so their brilliant solution is to make the American wagee work harder for less, because that's how effectively they were sold on selling our jobs to China. But here's the thing. I already said in a previous video, why is the American worker not competitive? And this is something the ruling class will never want to admit. Because we have a higher cost of living than the rest of the world. It's amazing that the ruling class would love to gaslight the American worker saying, if you make 100K, you're a part of the global 1%. But then if you say, oh, you know, somebody making 100K living in New York City, that they're living a privileged lifestyle, they're probably going to punch you because that's bullshit. They're paying probably $3,000 a month in rent, and 100K, that's pennies in comparison to that income. It's a complete gaslight. The real reason why America is not competitive and its industry is not competitive is because our working class is under the boot of the ruling class's endless greed to basically make us poor. Because they have to squeeze our working class as much as possible to build their profit margins. And so this is the conundrum. This is what's going to happen with Trump's tariffs. And this is something no ruling class and not very many right-wingers want to, maybe they'll understand. I think I have more faith in the political right to understand these ideas than probably the mainstream capitalist ruling class, okay? Is that you go through with the tariffs because our working class is so uncompetitive. People are not going to sink capital in the United States. They're not going to sink investment in the United States. It's not going to bring back domestic manufacturing. Not even just because we don't have any productive forces. We're just not going to get any capital investment because our working class is also uncompetitive. Is because our ruling class has made the American working class uncompetitive because of the cost of living stuff. Look at the average house price. The American worker is uncompetitive because of the cost of living. And so this is what's going to happen. And there, you can cope about it or you can just accept it and try and figure out what to do from here on, right? What's going to happen is the United States is going to effectively self-sanction itself. It's going to lose its productive forces. A lot of the critical things. Shelves are going empty because the United States doesn't realize how much it imports from the rest of the world. And to truly actually be self-sufficient means developing sufficient productive forces so we can domestically produce things, right? Is what's going to happen in the United States is very quickly, it's going to effectively become a third world country within the next 10 years. That's what's going to happen. What's going to happen because we're not going to have any productive forces. We're not going to have any capital to work off of. Setting up domestic industry is going to be incredibly difficult because we're largely a service economy. Is that the United States is effectively going to become a third world country really quickly. You can already see this with the shelves going empty. Everyone's talking about it on the news. Is that shelves are going empty. Because again, we rely so much on imports. So what's the solution? What is the Alistair solution? Okay, all right, we're going to do the Alistair LARPist president solution, okay? So what is the Alistair solution to make American industry competitive? And I'm not going to do the full ship on communism stuff, even though I am a communist. But let's just say if we were to do it and still keep capitalism to some degree, what would Alistair do to fix this situation? How do we make the American worker competitive again? If you want to keep capitalism, there's one thing that I know you're not going to want to cross, but it needs to be done. First of all, corporate landlords. What needs to be done to reduce the cost of living is because income's catching up to most other cost of living in terms of groceries and other things. Not too bad. Consumer electronics, right? The main thing that is making the American worker uncompetitive is largely housing, healthcare, these things. The things that the tributary class is trying to insert itself as a middleman. If you want to make American workers competitive again, you need to liquidate the tributary class. Obviously, people can get LARPy about revolutionary talk or whatever, right? But here's the thing. That's the hard, uncomfortable truth that you're going to have to recognize. You're going to have to get rid of BlackRock. You're going to have to get rid of American Homes for Rent. You're going to have to get rid of corporate landlords. You're going to have to do construction of new properties that can support American families to have a decent standard of living so that they can work without having to be extorted to death and require tremendous incomes just to live in a house that's 800 square feet. That's not even 800 square feet. It's more of an apartment. That's a studio. But still, that is one thing. Healthcare costs, those got to go down. The operational cost of the American worker has to go down, and you have to liquidate the tributary class middleman that is making the American worker competitive. And I'm not even trying to sell you a full-scale communist solution of just strip private property. That's not what I'm trying to do here, right? As much as you'd like to call this communist, it's really not. This is a defensive measure to make the American country and economy competitive to the rest of the world. The American working class is not lazy. It is very hardworking. It doesn't even have the same guaranteed vacation days that most European countries have, like France having 2 months of vacation time, or even mandated health care or public health care. It has none of these things. These are all social democratic policies that you could easily implement right now. But the United States has none of these things. In fact, companies deliberately keep workers under the 40-hour mark so they don't have to dole out full-time benefits such as medical and dental. That's the truth. The American worker is not lazy. It works so hard, it goes to the grave early because how hard it worked. It neglects its physical health to work hard because it believes in the American dream that if you work hard, you can be moderately successful. But one particular class is preventing this for the vast majority of people. And again, I'm a communist. I don't hide this fact. Everything I said as a solution here is not even full-scale communism. I'm not even proposing socialism. These are just immediate fixes that if you want to make the American working class competitive geopolitically, that's what you're going to have to do. Now, here's what's going to happen if you don't. Because if you don't fix the economy, which is going to be a consequence of these tariffs, which is going to be a consequence of global isolation, it's going to be infinitely worse than global trade was dealing the American worker, which is already pretty bad, being consistently dangled over your head by the capitalist class. You're going to outsource their jobs. You are going to have a disgruntled working class that is going to overthrow you. You're going to make it really easy for communism to take hold, right? That's if you don't do these kinds of solutions to actually fix the immediate issue. Like I said, I'm not even selling you full-scale communism here. I'm just giving my 2 cents on how you can fix the situation immediately so you don't have to have the communists. I'm literally advocating for your side. I'm saying, here's what you can do to prevent communists from winning. My side. I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom to say, here's how you stop us from gaining any political attraction. Again, look at the wage rage channels. They're growing in popularity. They're coming more and more. But that's the truth. Okay? So take it at your own peril. You can either accept this or you don't have to, and you can cope about it. And again, I end my video every time. Every time I make a bold claim, I'm going to give it one caveat. And I let any one of you in my audience, whoever watches this video, to hold me to my word. Okay? In 5 years' time, if what I said did not become true, you can come back. I'll leave this video public, and you can come mock me in my own comment section 5 years down the line. But if I'm right, I get to do the same in return. That's the bet, okay? I know you're going to publicly ridicule me anyways. That's why I'm making this bet. But I'm making it a little bit of a game. If I am right in 5 years, I'm going to publicly mock you, and my numbers grow. That's how it's going to go. If you're right, you can publicly ridicule me in my own comment section. I'm going to leave the video public, and you can come back here and comment saying, Alistair, you're a dumb fuck. This is why you're wrong, you dumbass retard communist. And I will not even delete the comment. I don't delete comments. I don't believe in deleting comments. Even the people who are just kind of roasting my ass. Even when I insulted Dave Ramsey, I'm not a hypocrite about this. I am 100% fair. If I insult you, I'm not going to get butthurt if you insult me. That's how I play this game. Okay? When I place these bets, I'm fair in this regard. So, if I'm wrong, feel free to come back in 5 years and say, haha, you're wrong, you're a dipshit communist. But I'm going to leave this video up is because it might age like wine, it might age like milk, but that's what the bet's going to tell. And only time is going to tell which way this goes, okay? Maybe you're right. Maybe the political right will have their way, and we'll have an American economic boom, and we'll all live happily ever after under Trump's dictatorship. I personally don't care. I'm not even opposed to dictatorship. I just want competent leaders. That's all I care about. And also effective systems and good ideas. I don't care if you're a dictator or, liberal republic. I'm consistent in my word when it comes to that. But, I think I've made my point. So I'm going to cut off the video here. Go ahead and send it out. Y'all have a good day. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. And, as always, I'll see you next time.